like this.
Alright guys, we've been in this game for forever. As you can see, me and Janky have
thanks, but I think I'll stick to the way that I do it. Things came to a head 2 weeks ago when my wife, father-in-law, mother-in-law, and I were in her parents' kitchen preparing dinner for my mother-in-law's birthday. We were running a bit behind, so things were heated, and that's when Sarah walked in. She took one look at what I was doing, scoffed, and said something like, "Oh, wow, okay, so that's not the right way of doing things." She hit a nerve, and I pretty sternly told her to stop criticizing my cooking and that I'm also a chef like her. She laughed and said, "Making kung pao chicken at some Chinese restaurant doesn't count." The kitchen... went silent. My father-in-law kind of chuckled, and my mother-in-law said, "Sarah, what is wrong with you?" I stopped what I was doing, swore at her, and called her a racist piece of garbage. I apologized to my mother-in-law for not being able to stay, and I left for home with my wife. Apparently, this caused a massive fight after we left, with my mother-in-law, brother-in-law, and other sister-in-law taking my side, and my father-in-law and Sarah saying it was a joke, but kind of true, and that I was being too sensitive. The extended family somehow got wind of this, and now everyone is arguing and taking sides. And my wife is even getting texts from some of her cousins apologizing for Sarah's behavior. Despite being on my side, my wife is begging me to apologize so the fighting will stop. But I refuse to because F Sarah and her blatant racism. Am I the butthole? And
thing is, you have everything health because you just have 58 health apps. Each one is like 30, so lots.
Apparently, one of her coworkers heard her rants about what happened and reported her to management. Then OP posts another update. So it looks like one of my wife's cousins found this post and put it on Sarah's Facebook wall saying, "This is you, right?" Her Facebook friends are starting to comment with things like, "If this is really you, Sarah, then I'm disappointed." I think that Sarah hasn't seen it yet because she's still at work. Things might be hitting the fan soon, and now my wife is pissed off too. I was considering removing this post, but I just got a voicemail from my father-in-law who said, "Your presence has only been tolerated up until this point, and you'll be in for a world of hurt if you don't delete that post." So I'm officially going to keep this post up. And if you're still reading this, Doug, I'm very disappointed in you. You're better than this. And then OP posted another update. My wife just got a phone call from Sarah. Sarah started screaming and crying at her the moment that my wife picked up. She said, "I just got demoted because of your blank husband." Except replace the word blank with an Asian slur. Apparently, some of her coworkers are friends with her on Facebook, and they showed the post to management, which, combined with her earlier rant, double whammied her back to being a line cook, and now she might get fired. My wife told her to go F herself, and she's now solidly on my side after taking the verbal abuse from Sarah and reading some of the comments here. My wife is still the opposite of happy, though. My wife called her mother and asked her what the hell is going on with her father. My mother-in-law was confused, so my wife played back the voicemail that I had on my phone. And apparently my mother-in-law literally just walked away from the phone without hanging up and started screaming at her husband.
I got this on you 13.
Into an absolute flame war with family and friends jumping in. Suffice to say, things have officially gone nuclear. Okay, everyone, I don't ask for this very often, but I really need you to do me a favor. I really, really want OP's father-in-law to come across this video. So if you could hit the like button, if you could hit the subscribe button, if you could make a comment down below, all those things will make it more likely that OP and OP's father-in-law will see this video. Because if that racist douchebag got so pissed off from a Reddit post, just imagine what he's gonna feel like when he sees this YouTube video. Alright, OP, I think I might be beating a dead horse here because it sounds like Sarah's coworkers, Sarah's family, all of our friends on Facebook, and everyone down in the comments has pretty much already said it before. But obviously, you are not the butthole, OP. You didn't do anything wrong. You just called out a racist for being a racist. Sarah, on the other hand, gets 4 out of 5 buttholes. Being racist to a family member is disgusting, and Asian hate is already bad enough in America as it is. Honestly, Sarah deserves to get demoted, and I hope she gets fired. Also, Doug, Sarah, if you're watching this video, go fuck yourselves, you racist pieces of shit. That was our slash am I the butthole, and...
So this is just how our life's going right now, waiting until the other team decides to do something possibly stupid. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, I guess they fixed the planes because that felt very normal. Oh no. Ooh, that's dangerous. This inventory thing. We've built a fortress of Ceram, because, Ceram. Just in case they think, oh yeah, we'll just nuke them. Oh yeah, it's glitched. The audio. Two zip lines. I've got to take a picture of this. That was just the best image ever. Let's just see how long this recording will get, because like we've been playing this game for like 30 minutes before. So yeah.
Welcome to r/Am I the Butthole, where someone mocks a grieving mother at the funeral of her dead husband and children. Am I the butthole for going to the parents of the girl my stepsister has been bullying? My 17-year-old stepsister has been bullying this girl in our grade, Mia. Mia is a very shy person. We were never friends, but we were friendly until the bullying started, and then Mia withdrew from everyone. I found out about the bullying over a month ago. People described it as not real bullying, but my stepsister called her names and told her that she doesn't deserve friends. I found a note from my stepsister telling Mia this. I was pissed. My stepsister and I never had a good relationship because we're always fighting, but I never figured that she was an actual bully, just someone who got on my freaking nerves. I ended up going to Mia's parents with what I knew and the evidence of the bullying, and now it's been brought up at the school, and Mia's parents want my stepsister expelled. My dad is pissed. He said that it was so unbelievably petty and mean-spirited to go to the girl's parents over sibling issues. I told my dad that nothing between me and my stepsister would ever be sibling issues because we are not siblings. No. And that my actual siblings, my younger brother and sister, would never do that to another person. My stepsister's been suspended, and it looks like she'll be expelled on Thursday when the big meeting happens. My dad's wife is freaking out, and so are my stepbrothers. With the exception of my siblings, everyone seems to think that I'm wrong for doing what I did, for at least not talking to my stepsister first. I feel like going to Mia's parents was the right call because of how serious bullying can be for the person being bullied. And even just calling someone names can cut a person really deep. But I never expected this kind of reaction. Life at home is very hard right now. Am I the butthole? Wait, hold on. So it's petty and mean-spirited to stand up to a bully, but it's not petty and mean-spirited to be a bully? What are your parents talking about, OP? And what's more, people saying that it's not real bullying? Well, in that case, what's fake bullying look like? There's no such thing because it's all just bullying. OP, you definitely did the right thing here. I mean, yeah, someone could make the argument that you should have gone to your stepsister first, but
guys, I'll be back in a second. That was so long.
Hey stepsister, I see that you're bullying Mia and I would really appreciate if you stop. Oh, my bad. I recognize the errors of my ways and I totally understand that I'm in the wrong here. My apologies. I'll stop. OP, you get a solid 0 out of 5 buttholes. Your stepsister gets 3.5 out of 5 buttholes and your parents get 3 out of 5 buttholes. Am I the butthole for telling a mom the truth about why her son wasn't invited to a sleepover party? My son just turned 10, and for his birthday, he wanted to do a superhero-themed slumber party. We did something similar on the last 2 years, and they all had a blast. The party started around 3, and we did pizzas, movie, popcorn, and designed superhero masks. My son is friends with a boy named James from his class. He came to the last 2 sleepover parties, and while he was well-behaved, it was his parents who I felt were the problem. When we send out the invites, we tell the parents when the party is and what time to pick the kids up the next day. For the last 2 parties, James was always the last one to be picked up. For my son's 8th birthday, we specifically stated that all kids should be picked up by 11 a.m. We had plans to go to my in-laws for my kid's birthday party, which was on his actual birthday. We had 5 boys, including our son.
Now I love this map. People hate it. This is a new map. Everyone loves it. It hates it, correction, except for me. Why? Because look at this gen right there. that beautiful gem.
By 12:30, she still hadn't
Freak out to
shown
be where
up,
by, I think.
so I texted her again and reminded her that I had somewhere to be, and she had to get here as soon as possible. She responded that she was eating lunch and she would be there soon. By 2 p.m., I texted her again and let her know that she has to pick her son up ASAP, that we're getting ready to leave in an hour, and that her son was not invited to come with us. I had assumed that this would prompt her to come get him. By 4 p.m., my husband left with our kids to my in-laws, and I called James's mother. I left her a voicemail and told her that if she wasn't at my house in 30 minutes to pick up her son, I was calling the police to inform them that he was an abandoned child. She showed up within 15 minutes to get him. She gave some half-hearted apology about how she was busy with errands and running her other kids to their activities. Today I received a text message from her asking why James wasn't invited to the sleepover party. Apparently, one of the other moms was talking about how much fun the kids had at the party, and she wanted to know why her son wasn't invited. So I told her the truth, that her son wasn't invited because I wasn't sure if she would come get him in a timely manner without disrupting our plans for the rest of the day. I explained that anytime her son is at my house, she's always late to pick him up, and I was tired of catering to her schedule. She called me an uppity B-word and has since blocked me on social media and her phone. Am I the butthole for telling her why her son wasn't invited? No way, OP. You are not the butthole here. You were being completely reasonable. You communicated your schedule and gave her a lot of chances to come pick up her kid, but instead, she was treating you like a free daycare. And worst of all, she's allowing her 10-year-old son to suffer the consequences of her screw-up. OP, it looks like we've got a classic case of an entitled parent on our hands. You get 0 out of 5 buttholes, she gets 2 out of 5 buttholes. Am I the butthole for making my father rebook my wedding venue and nearly triple the original cost after my stepsister canceled my original booking? My stepsister impersonated me.
Kolaki!
Reservation. She's 18 years old and a jealous cow. I got the reservation for a steal because I booked early and COVID made things uncertain. Well now, demand for wedding venues has skyrocketed. The venue is now asking nearly triple the original cost for the same date. They say that they'll honor the original reservation if I show proof that my stepsister committed fraud in the form of a police report. My father has begged me not to involve the police, so I told him he'll need to cover the new cost then. All of it except for my original deposit, because I'm super aggravated. My father is going to have to sell some property to do this. He's put down the additional deposit for the venue already, though. I know that my father isn't to blame here, but that witch is living under his roof. And by asking me not to report her fraud, I can only assume that he's taking responsibility for her actions. Am I the butthole? I do feel guilty, because my fiancé and I are much more financially well off than my father. But I just feel like this isn't my problem to fix. My father did find an alternative venue that was pretty nice and wasn't that expensive, but I just said that it had to be the original venue. I'm just incredibly pissed off. Nah, OP, you said it yourself. You wrote, I can only assume that my father took responsibility for her actions. And yeah, that's exactly what's happening here. You deserve recompense, and that should come from your stepsister.
No, not be angry, but no.
So instead, that falls on his shoulders.
Can I stop doing that?
If you ask me. And it's true, your dad didn't do anything wrong here, but if he's willing to pay for your stepsister's sins, then that's on him. OP, you get 0 out of 5 buttholes. What you're doing is completely reasonable. Honestly, I think I'd also give your father 0 out of 5 buttholes. I would definitely agree that the stepsister deserves some sort of punishment, but still, it's completely normal for a father to want to protect his daughter, so I think that's reasonable. He's paying you to make it up to you, and he's protecting his stepdaughter from legal repercussions, so yeah, it's a noble thing he's doing. 0 out of 5 buttholes. I will add, though, that if your father just covered your stepsister's crime and gives her no punishment, then I think it'd have to go up to 1 out of 5 buttholes for him. In that case, your dad would be acting like an irresponsible father who is not raising his daughter to be a good woman. Speaking of not being a good woman, your stepsister gets 2.5 out of 5 buttholes. Am I the butthole for telling my sister-in-law that no one cares that she's pregnant? Backstory, my 33-year-old cousin, Mary, lost her husband and 2 of her 3 kids in a car accident last week. Mary and her 5-year-old daughter are as devastated as you would expect. It's just heartbreaking. Well, today was the funeral, and my brother's wife, who's 26, announced her pregnancy the second she arrived at our house this morning. We were like, okay, congratulations, but please keep it on the down low for today. Well, when we arrived at the church, she kept making gagging sounds and rubbing her stomach, saying, "As a mom, I can't imagine what she's going through." They don't have any kids, so people would look at her funny, and then she'd tell them that she was pregnant. Afterwards, at my aunt's house, my sister-in-law kept making everything about her. Like, someone would be in the bathroom and my sister-in-law would loudly say, "Pregnant lady needs to pee." She literally told my cousin's sister to give her seed so the lady with the baby could rest her feet. I ignored her until she came up to Mary, stuck out her flat belly and said, "My husband and I just found out that I was pregnant, and honestly, we're beside ourselves thinking that what happened to you could happen to us." Mary broke down. I snapped and said, "Who says that to a woman who just literally lost 2 babies? No one gives an F that you're pregnant. Look around. It's not just 1, but 2 babies' funerals. Not to mention the love of Mary's life. I knew that you were an attention seeker, but for F's sake, you took the pregnancy test 4 days ago. Just leave." She left in tears, and my brother called me a fat, bitter B-word. I've gotten phone calls from my brother and my sister-in-law's family calling me a world of names because I made a pregnant woman cry. If I'm being honest, even though Mary and my aunt thanked me because it was all making Mary upset, I feel worse about making a scene. Please put me in my place if I'm wrong. Alright, Ophi, so this is one of those stories where you read the title. Am I the butthole for telling my sister-in-law that no one cares that she's pregnant? And you think to yourself, man, this person's totally gonna be the butthole here. How rude. What situation could possibly exist on planet Earth where that would not make OP the butthole? But yeah, I would say this situation fits that bill quite perfectly. OP, you are completely not the butthole in this situation. What your sister-in-law did was extremely rude. Like, first of all, I can't even imagine coming to a funeral and saying something like that in front of the widow and the mother of the dead babies. I mean, geez, lady, I get that you're happy and you're excited about the baby and everything, but timing matters. Maybe don't parade your pregnancy in front of the woman who just lost her 2 babies. Oh my god. That's a shame about your dead babies, but the good news is that I'm having a baby. Isn't that fantastic? Oh my god, like even just me sitting in my basement recording this video, speaking in my stupid Karen voice, I felt cringy and bad just saying that to an imaginary person online. And this person's rubbing it in the face of a literal crying widow. Like, oh my god, OP. You're not the butthole here. Okay, can we just all agree? OP's not the butthole here. This woman completely deserved to be put in her place. Absolutely. She should have been kicked out way earlier than that if you ask me. Also, I'd like to point out that my wife just had a baby and she did not talk like that. "Coming through, pregnant lady needs to pee. Oh, I'm so hungry because I'm pregnant. Just let me put my feet up because the pregnant lady needs to rest her feet." No, the only reason why you talk like that is because you want people to know that you're pregnant. OP, you get 0 out of 5 buttholes. Your sister-in-law gets 4.5 out of 5 buttholes. I genuinely want to give her more, but I try to reserve 5 out of 5 for like literal child abusers and people like that. Am I the butthole for kicking my sister out to the streets because she can't take my effing violin playing? I'm a 30-year-old woman who's a musician, playing gigs at an orchestra as a violinist. Rehearsals just resumed, so the orchestra is my main source of income at the moment. My sister, who's 26, is a social worker who works 3 days a week, so she makes minimal income, but she adores her job. I live in a small 2-bedroom apartment, using the second room as a practice room and storage for my instruments. 3 violins, 2 guitars, a digital piano, and a small drum kit. 4 months ago, my sister broke up with her boyfriend, and I temporarily offered her my spare room. I moved most of my stuff to the living room so I could fit a small bed in there. My sister moved in, but she asked me to move more stuff to the living room. I moved pretty much everything except the piano, to the point where the living room became uninhabitable. Then my sister started complaining about my violin playing, saying that it gave her headaches. I told her that I couldn't stop my daily practice without risking my only steady income, but the arguments got worse. She told me to play it only when she wasn't home, but with her work schedule, I couldn't afford that. I tried switching to an electric violin, but even that can be pretty loud, so it didn't help. Several times I reminded her that this was only a temporary arrangement, but she didn't seem to hear me. 2 weeks ago, I arrived home to find my piano in the bathroom near water and humidity because my sister needed the space for her new double bed. When I told her that she can't seriously expect me to store my piano there, she said, "Yeah, you'll just have to sell it, I guess." I got so mad that I told her she has 7 days to leave, but she didn't take me seriously. For a week, I only talked to her to remind her how much time she had left, but she always laughed it off and told me to stop acting like a crazy person. When the deadline came, I boxed up all her stuff while she was at work, booked an Airbnb bed sit close by, and drove her stuff there. She was livid, but she couldn't do anything except take her new keys and stay there. The following week, she kept calling me with an increasingly apologetic tone, saying that she shouldn't have moved my piano or bought a bed. She promised she would put more effort into finding a new place, and by the end of the week, I considered most of her issues to be at least addressed, so I drove to help her move back in. But while I was carrying the first box back into my apartment, she said, "I do hope that you'll at least stop with the violin this time. I absolutely refuse to take more of that effing violin." I dropped the box, wished her good luck, and left. Now, 2 days later, on one hand, it feels like a huge overreaction to leave your own sister literally homeless because of an argument about a violin. But on the other hand, I had no plans to allow her back here because I feel like she would just continue crossing boundaries and never leave. Man, this episode feels like the Day of Evil Sisters. OP, you were doing your sister a huge favor. She was down on her luck, so you basically gave her a place to stay for free. And the only requirement you have for giving her free room and board was to just respect your stuff and respect your violin practice time. Your sister, for some reason, could do neither. There's that phrase, "my house, my rules." Well, yeah, OP,
Yes,
it's your house, it's your rules. OP, you get 0 out of 5 buttholes. Your sister gets 2.5 out of 5 buttholes. That was r/Am I the Butthole, and if you like this content, check out my Patreon where I publish extra episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day. Welcome to r/Am I the Butthole, where OP has to fight to keep his $500,000 inheritance. Am I the butthole for refusing to take a DNA test to keep inheritance? I'm a 25-year-old guy, and I'm having a clash of morals and obligations, and I would like the outside perspective. When I was 13, my parents died, and I was raised by my paternal grandparents. That was the easiest choice, since they lived in the same area when my parents were alive, and I visited them frequently. I'm my grandparents' only grandkid because my aunt, who's 43, is child-free. So when my grandparents passed on, they left me their house. The current total value of the house is around $500,000, and that's lowballing the estimate, and it's fully paid off. So I basically have a really good head start in life, although I could never imagine selling it. Recently, I was approached by this 38-year-old guy, John, who claimed to be my grandfather's son, and he would like a DNA test to verify it. I was shocked and I couldn't believe him, and I told him to F off because that would mean that my grandfather cheated on my grandmother. He also contacted my aunt, and she recognized him as the neighbor's kid who moved away years ago. Apparently, my grandparents were friends with his parents, but then one day there was a huge fight and the couple moved away. John stated that his mom had an affair with my grandfather, and when the husband found out, he divorced his mom and they were forced to sell the house. John said that his mom's husband wanted nothing to do with him since he wasn't sure if he was the father and abandoned him. Years later, John tracked him down, and after a DNA test had confirmed that he wasn't the father, John's mom confessed that the only other possible candidate was my grandfather. John's mom had insisted that her ex was the father for years. John has been asking me to do a DNA test so that he can finally know for sure who his father is. I was willing to do it until my girlfriend brought up the issue of ownership of the house. I did a quick check, and if the DNA test proves that John is indeed my grandfather's son, then he might be able to sue for a share of the estate. If it came down to it, I would be forced to sell my home because there's no way that I could buy out even 1/3 of the share if John wanted it. I contacted John and said that I would be more than willing to do a DNA test, but only under the condition that he sign away any rights or claims to the house if he's proven to be my grandfather's son. This would be done via paperwork that my lawyers would draw up. I didn't hear from John for days, but then I got an angry call from a woman claiming to be his wife who called me greedy and selfish. That I couldn't possibly know the pain of not knowing who my father is and that my grandfather owes John. I hung up on her and contacted a lawyer, so unless John can present enough evidence to create doubt, he doesn't have much of a case, especially since the possible father is already deceased. While I'm content with never giving John what he wants until he waives his rights, and my aunt won't either, his wife has begun stalking me on social media and putting me on blast. Am I the butthole? Wow, okay, so going down in these comments, everyone is saying that OP is not the butthole, but personally, I disagree with this one. Now, don't get me wrong, it's definitely in your best interest to completely shut down John, because if you indulge him, then there's a decent chance that you'll lose half of your estate to him. That being said, just because it is in your best interest to shut down John, that doesn't mean that it's not the buttholy thing to do. As a matter of fact, I think that yes, John does have a right to know who his father is. Unfortunately for you, OP, if he does find out that you're related, then that might give him a claim to your estate. Like, that sucks. That's a really sucky consequence for you. But so what? If we're only looking at this from like a practical standpoint, then yeah, that's awful and you should never let that happen. But if you're looking at this from a moral standpoint, then yeah, that is awful. First off, not only does John have an absolute right to know who his father is, but if he is related to your grandfather, then yeah, morally he may have a claim to your estate. I mean, let's not forget that John is a victim here too. If your grandfather really is his father, then that means that his father completely abandoned him. Also, it means that his mother lied to him for his entire life. Like, here's the really weird thing about this story. OP is writing this story saying, what do I do? And everyone is saying, OP, you're not the butthole. Lawyer up, shut down John entirely. However, if John had written this exact same post and was like, hey, so my mom cheated, and I think that this other guy is my actual father, and I think that I have a claim to his inheritance because I got totally screwed, would I be the butthole for asking to get a DNA test? I'm pretty sure that everyone in the comments would be like, no, absolutely you're not the butthole. You have a right to know who your father is, and you have a right to the estate. OP, I don't blame you. If I were in your shoes, I might do the same thing. It'd be tough, it would make me feel guilty, but $500K is a lot of money. So I think that my final assessment, OP, is I have to give you 3 out of 5 buttholes. Denying someone the right to know who their true family is and denying their inheritance is a butthole move. It is selfish. At the end of the day, it just is. I think I have to give John 1 out of 5 buttholes. If he were just like purely good natured, then he would only want the DNA test and he would be willing to sign away the rights to the estate. However, like, I can't really blame him because if your grandfather is the father, then he does have a claim to the estate, right? He just does. So, sorry, OP. I think you gotta do what's best for you, but still, that's gonna make you the butthole in this situation. Actually, after looking down through the comments, I'm gonna read this post from Religiously Decaf. I'm sympathetic to you, but I think that you're not the butthole. Also, John is not the butthole for asking. You are not the butthole for trying to protect your assets from a potentially protracted and expensive legal battle over a sucky thing that a dead person did almost 40 years ago. Lack of buttholery aside, legally, John probably does have a claim, which royally sucks for you. But ultimately, the fault is with your grandfather who cheated and did not have his will written to protect his intended heirs. Not the guy who was abandoned by both his biological father and the man that he believed was his real father. Yeah, I do understand where this poster is coming from. OP, you do absolutely have a right to protect your assets. And it's not like this is your fault, it is your grandfather's fault after all. But still, I don't know, I just kind of feel for John in this situation. He's the real victim. He has no father, a lying family, and no inheritance, and he's done nothing wrong. I don't know, I'm sticking with my rating. OP, 3 out of 5 buttholes. John, 1 out of 5 butthole. So, I don't know, did I get this one wrong? This story feels really complicated. What do you think? Please let me know down in the comments because I'm really curious. Am I the butthole for being the one to pay for my niece's tummy tuck after years of her parents telling her no? My niece, Jenny, went through trauma as a kid and ended up becoming an emotional eater. She became obese, was held back a grade, and became socially stunted. Her parents, after I pushed her a lot, put her into therapy, and she was able to heal from the trauma and gain control of her eating. Because they waited so long to take her problem seriously, after my niece lost the weight, her skin didn't bounce back, and she was left with a saggy belly and protruding abdomen. She has a double roll belly where there's a roll above and below the navel, and the bottom roll tends to stick out in clothing. Before the body image brigade rains down on me, this is not just a fat that gathers naturally there for a lot of women. This is overhanging fat that is almost always visible in clothes. Nothing she did would fix it. Her parents are very much anti-plastic surgery, and given that she was a teenager, I totally get it. But she was miserable in her own body. Jenny stays with me during summers because I live near a beach and love spending time with her. Over the years, she would cry and cry and cry to me about how much she hated her stomach, and how she wishes she could just look normal and her parents would just let her go get a tummy tuck. Last year, I decided that I would give her a tummy tuck for her 18th birthday as long as she cleared it with her counselor. Her counselor agreed that this was something that could truly help her. She had it done late in the summer, healed while staying with me, and then went to college. I can't tell you how different she became. She was confident, happy, and she finally wore clothes that didn't hide her body, the whole 9 yards. She even asked someone out at the beach. She came home for spring break and finally wore something that made her mom take notice, and I'm guessing mom saw her scar. She hit the roof and started yelling at Jenny for what she did, asking her if she really spent her college money on something this frivolous. Jenny came crying to me about it, and I knew that I couldn't let her take the blame with her mom, so I fessed up. My sister has blacklisted me. My sister basically thinks that I'm Satan, warping her kid's self-esteem and self-image, that I should have told her to learn to love her body instead of giving into diet culture. Jenny is happier than she's ever been. Furthermore, she was 18 at the time of the surgery, and this is something that she's wanted since she was 15 years old. It didn't lead to her wanting more surgeries. It led to her sobbing happy tears after she tried a curve-fitting dress for the first time. I don't see how what I did was wrong. At all. At the same time, I know that she's not my kid. We did go behind my sister's back. Plastic surgery is a big deal, so I don't know. OP, are you the butthole for paying for an adult to do something that's completely legal? No. Also, her therapist signed off and agreed that it could help her, so where's the harm here? OP, it sounds like your sister's just a prude. I'm giving you and Jenny 0 out of 5 buttholes, and I'm giving your sister 2.5 out of 5 buttholes. Am I the butthole for emasculating my fiancé in front of his family? I'm a 32-year-old woman, and my fiancé is a 38-year-old man. We've been together for about 6 years, engaged for 2. After we got engaged, we sat down and had the deal breakers talk. One of my deal breakers was to not have a prenup. I'm not here to debate with anyone about their use. I just think that if you're preparing for divorce before you even get married, it's a sign that you're probably marrying the wrong person. He agreed and everything was fine. Lately, his family, particularly his mother, keeps on bringing up signing a prenup. I've told her no many times. I said that's an issue between me and my husband and we'll discuss it privately and make our own decision as a couple. My fiancé also told him no, although more weakly. Well, last night we went there for dinner, and she brought out an actual prenup drafted by her lawyer. She put it in front of me after dinner and told me to sign it. Obviously, I didn't even read it, let alone sign it. She called me a gold digger. No one, including my fiancé, stood up for me, so I stood up for myself. I told her there's no gold to dig here. I make 4 times as much money as he does. I'm a medical doctor, and he dropped out of second year. I've paid off all my student debt when my fiancé has over $100,000 of debt left. I have my own house, ample savings, and I will certainly inherit more from my parents than he will from his. My fiancé has 5 siblings, and his family is middle class. What is she worried about? That shut her up real quick, especially when my sister-in-law then said, if anything, he's the gold digger here. My fiancé is now angry with me. He said it was emasculating for his family to know that I'm so much more successful than him, and his brothers are making jokes and change his contact info to gold digger. Personally, I don't think that I was rude or out of line, but he thinks that I was a butthole and could have handled it better. Am I the butthole here? Alright, OP, so on this post, people are overwhelmingly voting not the butthole. However, yeah, I think I do have to give you a butthole score here. So, first off, let me say that your mother-in-law completely stepped over the line. She's sticking her nose in someone else's business, and it was very rude of her, so I'm giving her 2 out of 5 buttholes. Also, OP, I do think that you have a right to stand up for yourself. What you said to your future mother-in-law was totally justified. However, just because what you did was justified doesn't mean that there will be no consequences. I mean, your fiancé is right. You did insult him in front of his family. You didn't exactly mean to, but it's clear that he's been personally hurt by what you said. So, for that, I think I have to give you 1 out of 5 buttholes. I think you owe your fiancé an apology. That being said, I think your husband also owes you an apology. I have to give your fiancé 1 out of 5 buttholes because he didn't stand up for you. If you're in a relationship with someone and they take you to visit their family and their family is rude to you, your partner should be the first line of defense to defend you against his toxic family members. He didn't do that. He just sat by and let his mom try to manipulate you. So for that, I have to give your fiancé 1 out of 5 buttholes. Like, for real, what's the point of getting married if you're not going to have your spouse's back? Am I the butthole for not following the rules of the Neighborhood Homeowners Association, even though I live in the neighborhood, but I'm not an HOA member? So, my neighbors called me a butthole today. I bought a house 5 years ago that a real estate company built on speculation. My house was the first house in a planned subdivision. The area kind of hit a boom period, and the other surrounding houses went up in value quick.
No way.
In my contract to purchase my home, there was no homeowners association, and because I was here first, I didn't have to join any other HOA that the neighbors decided to create. According to my contract, I'm grandfathered in. They all seem to forget this, though, and continually try to give me HOA fines for breaking the rules of the HOA. This has ranged from having deliveries sent to my home, to cutting my own grass, to having vehicles parked in my yard. And they are not happy that I own an extra tract of land. I purchased a second lot so I could have a bigger yard so I could build a shooting range. I live in the South. This type of thing isn't very uncommon. The recent event that led to them calling me a butthole is they came over to ask me to remove an eyesore in front of my garage. I run a small hobby business of doing woodworking projects, and I have a shelf outside of my garage door full of various pieces of treated lumber that I may use one day. It's not the neatest or cleanest area, but it's not a disheveled mess either. So I told them that if they would just lighten up about all the HOA fines, then I would move my woodpile if it bothered them so much. They proceeded to tell me that I had to address all the HOA issues and take care of the woodpile. They also said that I had to stop any deliveries on Sundays and getting my other truck out of my yard. They handed me what basically amounts to a ticket, and I trashed it and told them to get the app off my property. They called me a butthole for my unreasonable behavior and told me they'd be back. Alright, so first of all, these HOA people are major douchebags, and they're just trying to stick their nose in a place where it doesn't belong. I'm giving the HOA members 2.5 out of 5 buttholes. That being said, just because all of your neighbors are part of the HOA, that doesn't mean that this guy who's being rude to you speaks for all of those neighbors. What I mean is, certainly you have plenty of other neighbors who have been perfectly nice to you, or at least haven't been mean to you, right? Well, those neighbors also have to look at your woodpile and the car that you have parked on your front lawn. Like, sure, OP, it's your property so you can do whatever you want to with it. It's your right. However, just because you can doesn't mean that you should. Part of living in a community means showing your neighbors basic courtesy. So, honestly, OP, yeah, you probably should move your woodpile in your car. To be clear, I'm not saying you have to do it. I could go out and buy a sign and put a sign in my front yard that says whatever I want. But I'm not gonna do that because it's kind of a douchey thing to do.
Guys,
and making your property look kind of run down and cluttered and have supplies just laying around for everyone to see is kind of inconsiderate. So for that reason, I have to give you 0.5 out of 5 buttholes. You can and should stick it to these HOA people at every chance you get. But don't punish all of your innocent neighbors along with them, you know? I would say the fact that you're defying their authority and just constantly ignoring all these tickets they give you is punishment enough. That was r/am I the butthole, and if you like this content, check out my Patreon where I publish extra episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day. Welcome to r/stories about Kevin. where Kevin is so stupid
Oh yeah,
that
this
he
is
eats
coming in a
shards
dump
of
truck.
glass. Our next Reddit post is from Sunny Kill. A few years back, one of my husband's frat brothers stayed with us for a long weekend so we could attend some reunion type thing. I'm fairly sure he's a Kevin. Since hubby and I had a long-standing family obligation on Friday night, Kevin was left to his own devices in the house. I knew this wouldn't end well, but I was expecting get the dog drunk type of antics. Nope. Kevin went in the freezer for some ice cream, or maybe he was just being nosy. Anyhow, he saw some unlabeled tablets in a blister pack and decided they were drugs. Why? Who knows what goes on in the mind of a Kevin? Hubby and I aren't the types to have anything stronger than Advil in the house. Regardless, he popped a couple. After an hour or so of nothing happening, he decided to take 4 more. When we got home, Kevin informed us that we'd better ask for a refund because those pills in the freezer were duds. What pills? The ones in our freezer? Those are cheese-curdling enzymes called rennet.
Feels bad, man.
I've been learning to make my own cheese. Rennet is a necessary ingredient that comes in that form and is best stored in the freezer. It absolutely will not make you high. In that quantity, it will cause severe gastric distress, best not observed in nature. I will never forget the sounds that came from the bathroom.
Man, I should write.
Don't take mystery pills from the freezer, Kevin. They're not all gonna be drugs. Sounds like this Kevin found himself in a shitload of trouble. Our next Reddit post is from somewhere out in space. I'm in the student room studying for an upcoming chem quiz.
There's a decent amount of health
across from
apples.
me watching YouTube, without headphones, of course. Now, my laptop is a convertible. You can tilt the screen 360 degrees, allowing you to switch between laptop, tablet, and the sort of intermediate tablet with stand zone. Since I'm doing flashcards, I swing it around so it's in the tablet with stand form and start tapping away. Kevin, in the meantime, has taken sudden and significant interest in this feature of my laptop. Out of the corner of my eye, I see him experimentally pushing the screen of his MacBook Pro, the newest model, I believe. I say to myself, he'll realize it doesn't convert. But nope. Kevin dramatically swoops his MacBook off the table and effing yanks his screen back with all of his strength. Unsurprisingly, the hinge snaps and takes some cables inside with it. The screen is now an unusable, garbled mess and is swinging back and forth limply. Kevin slowly realizes what he's done and then proceeds to yeet his brand new MacBook across the room where it smashes into the wall and turns off for good. The best part about this is that he came into school today with a new MacBook. His parents got him a new one immediately. God help this kid in the real world. Down in the comments, we have a similar story from Ash274. My wife got a computer from her work that had a flip over screen, but she wasn't aware that it had that feature. I say, oh, this is cool, and pick it up and flip it around. The look of shock and horror, followed by unmitigated rage on her face, was well worth the mini freakout that followed. Our next Reddit post is from Schottentokter. I'm from Austria. My sister used to take in couch surfers from all across the world. Most were lovely fellows with interesting stories to tell, but one time we hit the jackpot. We got a set of 4 American stereotypes. The ones that I used to think were only real in movies, and one of them was an airheaded cheerleader who was one hell of a pain. Since it's not relevant to the story, I won't go into detail about how rude and obnoxious Kavina behaved during the days leading up to the event. But let me tell you, at this point, even her friends were done with her. It's New Year's Eve, and the couch surfers decided to stay with us instead of going out to the city, and my sister and I go about our New Year celebration the same way we always do. Having fondue, dancing to the Blue Danube, and watching dinner for one. Midnight comes and goes, and within 5 minutes, Kavina takes her laptop to the other room to video call her parents, leaving the door open. And off she goes, complaining loudly about how my sister and I are embarrassing as F. How that Austrian food we had sucked. And how the mountains looked fake and whatnot. My sister and I were in the living room with the others, perfectly able to hear every single word while her friends turned red as tomatoes and started giving us apologetic looks. Cue Kavina's return, marching into the living room with the carefree attitude of an ignorant moron. Kavina's friend said, Kavina, we heard you, all of us. So what? I was talking American. My sister and I just looked at each other and started laughing so hard, it took us a few minutes to calm down. She had been talking to us every single day in English, but somehow that was different in Kavina's world. Her friends apologized profusely. Kavina didn't because she just couldn't believe, even when we told her that, yes, we do understand American. OP should have been like, wow, you know American? How do you say you're a complete effing moron in American? Our next Reddit post is from Sally Desire. If y'all read my previous story here, you know that I had a high school friend who wasn't, let's say, the brightest crayon in the box. The story ended with him living with his heroin-addicted girlfriend who's pregnant with his child. At least, that's what I thought. I hadn't spoken much to Kevin since he had gotten expelled from school, and our relationship faded into only Facebook updates on each other's lives. The other day I was speaking to a friend who we'll call Sarah
If they break
in
through.
contact with Kevin. He got brought up in conversation, mostly laughing about the ridiculous things he did in school,
But
and
no.
then I asked what he was up to. Now, there's something I didn't mention in my original post. Back in high school, Kevin vowed himself to celibacy. He didn't want to passionately hug before marriage. Also, despite how strung out his current girlfriend is, the only drug that Kevin ever used was marijuana. Sarah said, you know, the baby's not even his. Wait, seriously? Yeah, he's a virgin. I'm confused because he posts on Facebook all the time of how happy he is at becoming a father. Does he know? Sarah shakes her head no. Nope. He legitimately thinks he got her pregnant. Sarah let me have a moment just to see the astonishment on my face. She went on to tell me that when Kevin first told Sarah that his girlfriend was pregnant, Sarah asked him when he started being intimate with his girlfriend. Kevin said that he never did. However, they did do other things. Kevin believes that when his girlfriend swallowed, it impregnated her with his child. Sarah and a few others. Oh.
Fun. Ding dong. You won't get back in. That's even death right there. What? Caught lacking. How? This man needs to calm down. He's so bad he wants to escape. Which that's what doesn't work. Green jump hop. Oh. I'm. Oh. This man, I don't understand how he does it. He just cheats. You have to fight. No. Mewtwo. Okay, that's Gyarados, I think. I don't even. Where you go, guys? Why you that? Yeah. Avenger cancel. It's hard. I got your deep with it. Help! My team, no, okay? me, God. Yeah, I'm probably gonna end the video now. That was very long.